Welcome to Recycled Idaho, where two recycling industry veterans, Brett Eckhart and Nick Snyder, explore Idaho businesses and organizations that are putting in the work to keep Idaho environmentally and economically viable at the same time. Take a listen to how these entrepreneurs, business owners, and operators are making things happen in the great state of Idaho. In this podcast, Nick and I sit down with David and Christina Aparicio, the owners of Ideal Demolition. I really enjoy talking to these two because they remind me so much of how my family used to operate our business, with my mom running the finances and my dad managing the day-to-day operation. Take a listen. All right, sitting here with David and Christina Aparicio, the owners of Ideal Demolition. Thanks, guys, for sitting down with us and another episode of Recycled Idaho. Over here in Emmett, Idaho, and super close to my house, so it's an easy drive this morning. Why don't you guys just give us a little bit of background on Ideal Demo and kind of your guys' history and how you got into the demo business?
Well, realistically, we've been in the demo business since out of high school, since 1985. So that's what, 35 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, about 35 years now.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Tell me about
Yeah.
it. Yeah, 35 years. We graduated from high school and picked up a job doing demolition.
I like
and
it.
that's how we started back in those days. Realistically, the company started here in Idaho in 2005. It was started by myself and my wife, Christina. We started out of the garage.
Car table and a computer.
That's
It
awesome.
sounds funny, but we did.
My favorite stories. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Started out of the garage. It was funny because actually we left California, which is Southern California, LA. We moved here. Christina got here 2004, and then I finally got here 2005 and started the business. But before we left there, I sent out some business cards of Ideal Demolition. We had the insurance, we had our license and all that. Mm-hmm. I sent it out to like 300 contractors throughout the whole state of Idaho.
Yeah.
And when I got here, realistically, the second week, we got a call from a contractor to demolish a barn in Emmett.
In your backyard?
In my backyard, exactly. We got the first call, and we took care of that barn, and from there on, Ideal Demolition's history. I mean, we just grew and grew and grew and grew.
And how far do you guys travel to do demo work? I mean, you're based out of Idaho, but how far do you realistically like to go, prefer to go?
Pacific Northwest.
Okay.
We are licensed through the Pacific Northwest.
We're trying to get to Utah now.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're licensed Oregon.
Wyoming. Yeah.
So is there a special requirement for each state that you have to have? I would assume it's licensing and bonding.
Yeah.
Okay.
Experience.
Especially when you do the environmental part of it.
Okay.
You have to be licensed through the states too, which we deal with the hazardous waste, the soil remediation, contaminated soil. We deal with the asbestos, the lead, and mercury.
Yeah.
There's a lot of mercury involved with light bulbs, the old light bulbs, and we got to take those out before we demolish the building.
Okay.
So yeah, each state is required to be licensed and certified, and all your guys have to be certified to do the work.
Yeah.
So.
And each state has its own certification then?
Yes,
so
it
you
does.
have to run them through?
Yes.
So there's no national certification body. It's all individually, state by state.
The EPA rules realistically oversees the environmental of it.
Okay.
But when you go into a state, they have their regulations too to follow. Just like a contractor. You got to get your license and all that. Yeah.
Do they have to re-up those certifications, your crew, like every year?
Yes.
Every year they have to re-up it with another class?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a refresher.
Okay.
So let's say one of the foremans has a supervisor certificate for asbestos. It expires their birthday, I think. I can't.
No, it goes by their anniversary.
Anniversary date?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
like if it's the first of the year, then it's an expired the first of the year.
And right before it expires, you got to make sure that they do a refresher.
And can they do those refreshers? Like if they wanted to do the one for Washington, can they do that course here in Idaho, or do they have to go up to Washington to do it?
That depends in Washington. Well, right now, like say Oregon, we have to go into Oregon to do that refresher,
Okay.
to work in Oregon. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, but they could do them here.
They can take the class here. Okay, that's nice.
so you guys bring up the environmental, and you know, probably the biggest component of Recycled Idaho, and kind of the biggest thing we're trying to help people understand is recycling is great. You know, our company is United Metals Recycling. Recycling's in our name. It's obviously important to us, but one of the biggest things we were trying to let people get their hands wrapped around is that the recycling is great, but there's an environmental component and an economic component to recycling. Recycling is not free. It costs money. And it's the right thing to do, but there's also a lot of alternative things that you can do to help in the recycling process. I think what a lot of people don't understand about the demolition business is how much recycling is involved when you go look at a project and you go quote it. And when you guys look at a job, how is the recycling determined? Is it determined by the owners? Is it determined by you guys? I mean, where does the recycling component of a demolition job come into play for Ideal Demo?
But realistically, it goes back to the experience you have. Okay, if you look at a house, residential house, and if you look at a commercial building, okay, residential houses don't have much recycling. Okay, you could take the 2x4 off, but realistically, how much are you going to get the 2x4 for if you sell it?
Yeah.
Okay, it's going to cost you more money in labor to remove that 2x4 and go sell it for 50 cents. So realistically, the residential side of it, it's not much recycling.
Yeah.
If you go into the industrial and the commercial side of it, yes, you do have more recycling in it. But in order to get that project, once again, it goes with experience. If you get plans on the project, blueprints, great, you know how that building is built. But 90% of these projects don't give you plans.
Yeah.
So you have to go back on experience. What can you recycle out of that industrial project? You know, let's say industrial, you know, you deal with a lot of tanks, you deal with a lot of pipe, a lot of copper. All that material gets recycled. But in order for a demolition contractor to bid on that project, you really have to take your time and walk the job and say, okay, what could I recycle out of this project? 10% of the value of the contract is going to be recycled. Well, we remove that 10% in order for us to get that job because it's very competitive out there.
Yeah.
We're trying to get
So
work.
it could be 10% of the value of the project,
Right.
but weight-wise, volume-wise,
Right.
you know, it could be up to 50% of the
Yes.
actual project by weight is getting recycled,
Right.
but the value might only be 10% or
Yeah.
10 or 5% or whatever that number is, depending on the project.
Right.
So,
So realistically, recycling, it's a very, very good thing. Okay, but it costs money.
correct.
Okay.
It depends on what the customer
labor,
wants.
Yes,
Yeah.
the labor of it. We'll go to a project with a historic value of it. If the building was built in 1800s, the town or the city or the state you live in, they're going to want to remodel that building. Realistically, when it comes to the hazardous waste, because back in the 1800s, you built that structure with probably 100% of asbestos.
Yeah.
Well, now they're removing that asbestos. To remove the asbestos and the lead out of that historic building, it costs more to build that structure
Yeah.
than to actually do the work of the hazardous waste.
Because a historic building, you're going to want to sometimes save the outside,
Oh,
right?
yes.
So you're not going to be able to knock it down.
Right.
Because that would be a lot quicker
Right.
and a lot more cost
And again, it's what the
effective.
customer wants.
But I think when
You
people
know.
hear the word the word demolition, they think of like a wrecking ball and just knocking stuff over, but there's so much more to it.
Right.
There's a whole environmental component, a whole recycling component, and there's a whole economic component. Like, what if the owner of the building is a municipality, then they're going to call out how they want that job done.
Correct.
You know, they're going to say, we want this 80% recycled or whatever. Then they have to figure in, well, if we want 80% of the concrete crushed and the rebar taken care of, that costs money, right? So it's really the owner who determines
Right. What they
how
want to
much
spend.
they want to spend.
Right. We can do what the customer needs.
Correct, yeah.
It's just what they want to spend on their project.
And are you able to usually do a walkthrough on a big demo with the owner so you can get those parameters, and so you're comparing apples to apples with
Right.
them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Usually we get a scope of work, written down exactly what they want done.
So like one of the things I love about you guys is family owned. I mean, I come from a family owned business, so I understand like the fun, the struggles. I know all the components that go. You know, I watch my mom and dad, do it. I watch my grandma and grandpa do what you guys are doing, and it's so like that to me has there's a lot there that I can appreciate. But what do you guys enjoy the most about the demo industry and kind of building this business? What's the big takeaway? What do you guys?
Well, I'll let my wife answer that one, but I'll answer the question.
You guys, there's probably two different opinions.
There's two opinions. To me, the demolition business, it's a very unique business. Okay? I mean, once again, if you're going to stay in a job that you like and you're never going to retire, you're gonna like the projects. I mean, how could I say it?
Well, you have to like it to want to do it,
And
to keep doing it. Yeah.
And to be the owner.
Yeah.
There's a difference. There's a difference of.
I tell you right now, no project is the same. Okay, and doing a demolition project, every structure is built differently,
And that could be fun. I mean,
and that is
it's a
fun.
challenge.
Yeah.
It's a
Each one is a
challenge.
challenge.
So I like the challenges of the demolition industry of it.
Okay.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, one day
On your toes.
you could just get the hammer and remove drywall with the 6-foot ladder. The next day you're climbing, 168-foot smoking tower with scaffolding, and you're wondering, what the hell am I doing up here 200 feet up in the sky?
Who bid this damn job?
So yes, every job is different.
And that's what I love about you two. I can just tell you guys really enjoy it. You can tell when people enjoy the field they're in.
Right.
Well,
it's different. Like you said, we get from a person has their, somebody's left them a family home. We get the small ones to the large hospitals. So there's so many stories in between of what we get to see and the people we meet and their story on how they got it, what happened here, whether it's an old farm, whether it's a historic school that couldn't be saved or a school that can be saved. So there's.
Do you guys have like a favorite one, like one that like sticks out to you that you guys like doing, like that you kind of like, that was a good job. Not monetarily wise, but just like that was like a challenge that you were able to kind of figure out.
Here in Idaho? Or
anywhere, yeah.
Well, realistically, throughout my years, I got quite a few of them. And we'll talk about Idaho here. Here in Idaho, we actually did talking about being up in the air 170 feet. We did the old creamery in Meridian.
Okay.
Which involved a smokestack, was 170 feet up in the air.
Oh, wow.
And that was a 5-acre site with structures. So that was a challenging project.
It's got a lot of cranes involved on that.
And realistically, we scaffolded that tower. Yeah, we scaffolded that around the smokestack all the way to the top.
Because that's downtown.
Yes.
For people that don't know where the creamery was, was.
Right.
It is downtown, like a city that's probably on the Portland, Seattle edge of environmental and
the new Meridian City Hall.
Yeah.
So that's where you can reference it to.
So all eyes, like everybody, all eyes on that project.
Yes. Oh yeah.
That project. The other project is actually that I'm very, very glad we did. And my two boys went to Boise State. They graduated from Boise State.
Nice.
Was a new stadium.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the stadium was there, but we had, the renovation of the new skybox and the elevator and all that they put back 7 years ago, wasn't it? 8?
Yeah.
That's such a high profile job.
Yeah, that was a high profile there. We actually did all the demolition of the structure itself so they could put the new skybox in.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there was a lot of demolition to it, but that was a very.
Well, you guys probably have the coolest like before and after photos.
Yes, we
I
do.
mean,
Yeah.
that's probably one of the cooler things about what you guys do. Like, here's how it looked when we started.
Yes, exactly.
Here's
Yeah.
how it looks today.
Right.
Yeah. So now one of the jobs that I'm very happy to do, but we did a couple of them back in California, which was actually Anaheim and La Habra in California. Anaheim was actually an 11-story structure that we brought down, which we imploded.
Oh wow.
Okay, and that's the type of job that California, because it's huge.
Oh yeah, everything's big.
Everything's big. Here in Idaho, I'm hoping here in about 20 more years, which I'm hoping I'm still alive,
Yeah.
there'll be structures like that.
Idaho's like still fairly new, right? Like there's just the demo part of it is, when you go to
Well, as well as tall.
yeah.
Right. I mean, it's old. So a lot of our stuff is old stuff because it's just an older.
Yeah.
So much smaller than dealing like with a lot
Right.
of structures in
Oh,
California.
Idaho's growing, and it's going to get there.
Oh yeah, it's coming. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. Every time you drive down the freeway or the old highway, I mean, there's houses
Any
and
road now.
buildings, and
Any road.
Yeah.
it's starting to get
So
there.
one of the projects that Ideal Demolition is doing right now is the Old Mercy Hospital in Napa, Idaho. It's a tall, it's 5 stories high, the structure,
Okay.
which is made out of concrete, the entire structure, and steel. And the way we're going to bring that down is by using a 95-foot reach excavator.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
High reach.
High reach, yeah.
So on a job like that where we don't have, tall buildings like that traditionally in Idaho, do you go look for a rental, like a high reach on that?
Yes.
Because there's no reason for you to own a high reach around
That's
here.
correct, yeah. We'll be renting that machine. It's coming out of state, out of Utah.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah.
Which makes sense. I mean, if you were in the middle of a city and you did demo, you would probably own your own high reach because you'd be using it all the time. But,
Correct.
I mean, I've looked at those high reaches and just the sticks and the booms on them. I mean, they want a pretty penny if you want to own it. So,
the equipment nowadays is not cheap.
is that your biggest? I mean, we have a question here about your biggest long-term goals. I mean, how have you built your business from a card table in a basement or your house to what it is today? Because when you walk around here, I mean, you guys did it right. When we walk through this building, I mean, it's nice. When you go look at your equipment, you guys are doing it the right way, and because you're setting yourself up, to me, for the long run. You're not just trying to nickel and dime jobs to make a little bit of money and with some grand exit plan tomorrow.
Well, when we did that walkthrough at Mercy the other day, those excavators, you own those.
We own them.
And then that attachment on one of them, you're breaking up that concrete, get the rebar out. Like you own those attachments,
Yes,
so you
that's
put
correct.
that investment into.
What is the long-term goals of? I mean, do you guys have long-term goals as far as what you want to see happen down the road?
Well, once again, it goes back to if you like your job, you're going to stick with it until you die.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm going to do. I mean, I'll be a demolition man
Yeah.
for the rest of my
An old
life.
man.
And,
Yeah.
and my generations, which my two sons are involved, and my daughter's involved in the office. And my wife takes care of the entire staff of the office. But going back to the future, once again, if you run a company and if you take care of what you have in the company, that means from a copier to an excavator, that piece of equipment is going to take care of you.
Yep.
Okay? If you do the maintenance on it like it should be, it's going to take care of you. Our goal for the company is to keep growing and become one of the biggest in, the country, realistically. It's what I want.
Yeah.
That's my goal. Here in Idaho itself, we got a piece of land in eastern Idaho that I'm hoping here in the next couple of years, we open up a satellite office in eastern Idaho. Eastern Idaho is growing.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's where we're going to go. Going into other states, that's the future.
Okay.
that Ideal Demolition is going to do. Going
And
into
you
the
have
States.
2 sons and a
Yes.
daughter. They're going to help make that
Yes.
push with you, it sounds like,
Yep.
Yes.
which is awesome. Because the hardest thing with you want to grow, I remember when my dad was asking me when we were trying to grow our recycling business, is he's like, that's great, Brett. Like, I want to grow too. He goes, where are you going to find the people? I'm like, well, I'll find the people. Like, give me, he's like, that's the hardest part about growing
Is people.
and so if you have the next generation and they love it as much as you love it, then that's where you can really see, the growth is you have people that you trust that have the same passion for the business and they want to help push it out. So
Yeah, once again, it goes back to your kids. We have 3 of them that hopefully they stick with us. But the company is not going to grow and it's not going to do good if you don't have the right workforce to do it.
correct.
And in order to get the right workforce, the way I run my business is you're not a boss to them. Okay, yes, you go out to the jobs and you say, hey, this is what needs to be done. But before you actually get off before you start saying stuff like that, you got to say good morning first.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Say good morning and hey, how's the family? How's things? And
Yeah.
you're there as a friend. You're not there as a boss. And then you start getting with the scope of work of what's going to be done that day and where we're going to be at. And believe me, that goes a long ways.
The human element.
It's a human element of having respect for everybody.
You got to care about your people.
Exactly.
Or whatever the job is.
There's
Them
always going to
knowing-
be that guy that's it's
Right.
not going to show up to work. You're always going to have guys like that.
Right.
But the guys that do show up and give you 100%, it's because they want to be here.
Yeah.
And you're a good boss to them.
Right. Or having a job that we're going to do.
You treat them
If,
right.
whatever that job is,
Yeah.
them knowing that he would do the same thing. that
Yeah. And you could,
Even if you do it, I would do it also.
exactly. And I would never ask you to do something I wouldn't do, right?
Exactly.
And you could walk in tomorrow. Somebody could walk into Idaho tomorrow with $10 million in their bank account, and they could buy all new excavators and all new trucks and go out. But you could have the best equipment in the world, but if you don't have the people to run it, then
Yes.
that equipment
That's
isn't worth
exactly
shit.
it.
I've always said, go ahead and buy the best stuff and
You
do
said
it. But if you don't treat your people right,
Yep.
and you don't, take care of them, then that does you no good. Because A, they won't take care of your equipment.
No.
B, they won't take care of your company.
Right.
And you guys understand that. And that's how you grow from a card table in your house to the facility and the business and what you guys have today. So,
And it goes back to the same, it goes back to the way you were treated. Since I've been in the demolition business, like I said, 35 years, and I only been through 3 companies, and I remember how I was treated.
yeah.
Okay, and when I told myself if I ever get a company started myself, I'm gonna make sure how they treated me is not the way I'm gonna treat my workers.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I do.
That's awesome. And you took that and learned from it.
Because it's experience and you've been there and you've done that. And most of my I hate to say my workers, it's the staff that I have.
Yeah.
Okay, they see me out there, operating a skid steer or excavator. They see me out there with the broom and sweeping the areas that we need to sweep. And they look at the boss and say, wow, he's doing it too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just that, I came out of college or people come out of college and say, oh, I have a big, degree. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think you're probably explaining that to your kids, right?
Oh, yeah.
Hey,
Believe me.
because when we go to the job site and we see David Jr., you see your boy there and running the crew and doing that. He went to college. He graduated from Boise State,
Right.
but he's still on site learning.
Learning.
Until you put yourself in those people's shoes, it's hard to tell them how to do it, what to do, and for them to have that respect.
And to have
for
to have that respect for that person, whether he's just the guy that pushes the broom or the guy that runs the excavator. You have respect for them.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
No,
Because they're no matter what they do, they're still of value to us, and
Yeah.
they need to feel they're of value, whether they push the broom or run the excavator. They're of value to us.
I remember when my dad said, like, once I graduated college, I came and I started on Monday, 2 days after I graduated, and my dad said, be the guy that opens the gates and be the guy that closes the gates and does everything in between. And he goes, yeah, it's going to take time, but they'll respect you because they know that you're there before them, you're there after them. And it took a while, but eventually people are like, oh, okay, like you're here for the long haul. Like you're not just here just to try and get a paycheck.
That's it. And, a paycheck could come and go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Real fast.
Oh, real quick. Yeah. Especially if you're a kid, man. There's nothing cheap. Nothing cheap about having them, and nothing cheap about being a kid.
Exactly. So anyways, it's very hard. People ask me, you got the easy work. And my answer to them is, if it was easy, everybody will be doing it.
Yep.
And I don't get an answer after that.
Yeah.
Because they realize it. Okay.
There's just so much to the back end
Exactly.
of owning a business.
Yes.
And I don't care if it's a demolition business
that.
or a Burger King.
Right.
There's
Exactly.
a whole back end
It's a whole back end.
to it that a lot of people have a hard time kind of understanding.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about, with the recycling there's a whole back end component of the recycling business
Yes,
that
it
a lot
is.
of people don't discuss, and that's the cost of recycling. If you demoed a house, you could recycle 80% of it, but it would be really expensive to demo a house. You could pull all the 2x4s and try and reuse them and try and resell them, but it's going to, 10 times, 20 times the cost to demo. And I think that people have to understand that recycling is great, and as the world turns and we get more efficient about doing it, then there's going to be a lot more opportunity, and there's going to be a lot more value there. But that takes time as well.
Oh yeah. Time is what we have.
Yeah, for sure. So, give me, the both of you, give me one or two people that's like been super influential in your guys' career and wanting to start the company, or doing what you do today, personal or professional.
Well, there's two people in my life. Okay, realistically, really it's three people. I could talk about my dad, but my dad was never in the demolition business, but he did push me and say, "Get to work." Okay, that's one thing.
Work ethic. He tried to work ethic.
Exactly. That's my dad's there, and I love him. But the other person was my wife. Realistically, if you don't have a partner behind you 100%, okay, it's going to be tough. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
That's going to be tough because you cannot do it by yourself. And I think I have the same question to you.
Yeah.
Because I think your mom is involved, right?
Yeah, my mom and dad are retired, but my mom was like, I'm like, when I look at you too, I look at my mom and dad, right? You guys are younger, but it's the same thing. My dad was he was the boots on the ground out there. He dealing with the staff, the people, and my mom was the one on the back end making sure that the math made sense.
Exactly. And that's how things are here. Okay, and then with the company, it's taken two of us, besides all the staff that we have. But realistically, if you look at it, without myself and my partner here, there won't be an ideal demolition.
Well, you're only as strong as the person next to you, man, and that goes with your spouse as well,
But the other person that I do want to mention is I met this person back in 1994, and his name is Robert Hall.
Okay.
And Robert Hall is generations of a demolition contractor. His dad did it, his grandfather did it, so he comes from generations of being a demolition contractor. He actually took over the company that I was working for, and he's the one that really taught me the demolition business of it. Okay, by learning with Robert Hall on the estimating part of it, and treating your people and the equipment and the jobs and overall on the business, Robert Hall was a big influence to me.
Awesome.
He was my mentor of that. The man's still alive, he's a little old now, but I tell you what, talking about stories about how to bring down, 20-story structures I mean, demolition.
Did he encourage you to go start your own business, or was it kind of when?
No,
Out of curiosity?
it's funny. He doesn't. The way I'm running my business right now is that it's more like I'm running the way he ran the business.
Okay.
Be a friend.
Okay.
Okay. Don't be a boss.
Yep.
Okay. And I remember him telling me, if you teach them, okay, teach them how to do the work and teach them how to estimate the project and that's the way I'm going to say it right now is, if somebody comes into my company and I'm teaching them, and 2 years later they left, they're going to leave, I will shake their hand and say, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I was here to teach you and you learned from me. Now you're going to take that and you're going to take it somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that's the way I operate, and that's the way he operated too. When I left California, I actually went to him and I said, I'm leaving. And he looked at me and said, good.
Yeah. Because he realized you had got what you needed, and you helped him with build his business, and now you were. I mean, it's kind of like a mama bird. It's like gets the bird ready to fly, and then they're like, all right, it's time to go. Like
He did not say what the hell or none of that. He said, I'm glad you're leaving, and I'm glad you're doing it.
Because he could probably see that you had the desire and the drive to go do it, right?
Now you're going to see how a real man works.
Yeah.
Wake up at 3 in the morning.
And don't stop.
Yeah.
Now you're going to know how it is.
You're about to feel the pain.
Exactly. But no, he was a big influence to me.
How about you, Christina?
Probably David.
Yeah?
Yeah. Can't do it without each other. So.
Yeah. And you guys
That's
can
all we
kind of
have.
push each other.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's always. I watched my mom push my dad, and my dad pushed my mom, and my dad was more of a risk taker than my mom. And
It's actually the same way here.
he was willing to like go out, and he was like, "I'm gonna buy 2 trucks." My mom's like, "Well, let's buy 1." He's like, "I'm gonna buy 2." You know, it's like that type of dynamic that I watched them.
You actually, the
years.
same influence, but it's the same thing we got.
But you need that check
that.
method. Like you need, because
The checks and
maybe
balance.
maybe he might have wanted to get 4 trucks.
Right. Let's do 2. Let's do 2.
Like, that's okay, 2's fine, and I think that's the way we like to operate, our business as well. And you have to have those checks. Like we all love getting together and working hard and going at it, but you always have to have someone to kind of keep you in check and make sure you're holding up your end of the bargain.
So now you go buy everything.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, no, I have a guy named Brian Ferguson who keeps me in check. That's why I share an office with the accountant, just like my dad did. He shared an office with my mom for 20 years. So I know it was smart for me to put myself in the office with the accountant.
It takes a lot. Once again, having that partner that backs you up on it.
100%. Yeah.
100%. So.
Nate, you got any closing questions? Anything?
No, I think, everything was great. Really the best thing to close with is, how do people get a hold of you guys? Like, how does people reach out to you? Is it social media, email, or all of the above?
All of the above.
Yeah, we're actually, we belong to a couple agencies. One of them is AGC that runs through the state of Idaho, Oregon, and Washington.
The Association of General Contractors?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Okay.
The contractors.
Uh-huh.
That's one of,
Yeah.
one of the areas.
Yeah.
The other was social media, of course.
Yeah.
Everybody knows
Yeah,
Facebook.
Do
Facebook.
Okay. And
Yep.
You guys do LinkedIn,
yes.
and what we'll do is we'll post, all your contact info, your email address on the bottom. of
Email
the
address.
podcast,
That's
so.
correct.
Or plain old phone,
The
208-365-5015.
yeah.
It still has its place.
Yep, that's
Exactly.
right. Pick up the phone and call.
All right.
Pick up the phone and give us a call. That's the best way.
Well, thank you guys for sitting down with us. We appreciate
Thank you.
it. It's been great. Like I said, I feel like I'm like.
Oh, no,
seeing
it's
that.
great working with you, United Metals.
Yeah. Thank you
It's
guys.
a
We
big,
appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate it. It's been a
You guys
pleasure
do it the
working
right.
with
You
you.
guys do it the right way.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Recycled Idaho. And as we continue the journey across this great state, we look forward to bringing you more stories of people and organizations putting in the work to do the right thing.